Welcome back to another episode of the Lofty Lenders Homebuyer Education, where we explore tips, tricks, and stories that can help you plan for your next home purchase. Whether you're a first-time buyer, a move-up buyer, an investor, or just looking to learn, we hope you gained a little bit of knowledge today. Technology issues, Charlie, today. Talking issues. I haven't been able to think of words at all. Let's get away from educational tips and let's just talk about what's going on in life because I can't figure it out.
Whoa. Other than talking, that's the only words we do. The written word's even harder. So, guys, you're in for a treat. This could be a great episode.
Yeah. Well, Charlie, I think every once in a while, I think it's important to talk about like where we're at in the market and where Des Moines Metro and the surrounding areas kind of fall into place with the rest of the country, what we're seeing out there, and what we're not seeing.
We're awesome.
Well,
that's where we fall.
There you go. That's a good. We'll clip that right there. We'll call that one. Yep, that's a good one. I think. Honestly, just the generic overview, I would say that this year we saw rates getting better and better right up until the end of February. I actually was having a conversation with a client and we laugh about it now, kind of. But looking back,
with just a tear,
it was exactly. It was the last weekend in February, and I was talking to him on a Friday afternoon, and they said, Kyle, we're under contract. Like we'd love to see the rate get a little bit better. If it gets a little bit higher, like it's not the end of the world. We're okay, but we're willing to risk it. I always use the analogy. If you like to go to the casino, if you're willing to risk it a little bit, we can wait. If you don't like to go to the casino and you're very risk averse, then let's lock in your interest rate and not have to worry about that. So they said, Kyle, let's go ahead and float it and let's just kind of see, let's play the risk game. And I said, honestly, over the last few weeks, we've seen nothing but improvement on interest rates. I'm like, the only thing that could possibly come up is, if the president decided we needed to bomb Russia or something like that. And turns out over the weekend, we didn't bomb Russia. We bombed Russia's best friend. And I guess that weekend they were talking about me when they heard about the bombings. They said, Kyle, we thought about you. We were actually talking about you over the weekend because you you created this. Like, whoa, wait a minute. I don't have that much power. But really ever since then, rates they've just gone up. I was looking at somebody the other day I had pre-approved and we were looking at mid fives at one point for a pre-approval rate. And now we're mid sixes. So it's a little different than it was beginning of the year.
So the moral of this as we close out is Kyle affects the markets just whatever Kyle does.
Yep. I'm going to stand on my head and see if I can flip everything over.
Oh, dear heavens. Yeah, no, it has been a crazy year. And we've had some of those ups and downs. The downs are always the ones that hurt more. And, we try to cautiously watch for improvements. And we've gotten lucky on some of those, educated, lucky. And then we get unlucky at times. But yeah, the bombs going off and the oil frustrations in general with we're working through it, we're not working through it. And especially when we are, and then we sneak bomb, it's exhausting. And I think that is what. Do I have any color left? I have a little color left. Not much.
I don't think so. No.
So it has been a wild year, and I'm right there with you. When we have the conversations, we want to try and get the best we can, but it's just like investing. If you're going to invest, then you just invest. Don't worry about when you buy, because you're going to buy some this week, and then the next paycheck, some the next week, or however often you get paid. But as you're doing that and you put money in, that dollar cost averaging is going to be in your favor at times, and it's not going to be in your favor. But like the housing stuff, the fact that you're putting the money in investments, the fact that you bought a house, that's the key. Getting in, starting to have the appreciation go in your favor, and kind of fixing in your costs like we've talked before, and just the pride of ownership. You get it checking off your list. You don't want you to buy fast. You don't want you to buy super slow. Just buy when it's a fair house with a fair budget, and you're going to come out ahead, but you're still going to get some gray hair.
Well, you bring up a couple of points I want to talk about today. Number one, you mentioned the value of the homes, and I want to get into that here in a second. But then I also think it's important to talk about how the year has changed as far as, once rates started going back up, we still saw that, rates didn't necessarily have as big of an impact on buyers as we had in the past couple of years. And finally, I also want to talk about how I think it is interesting how it's become more of a buyer's market than a seller's market. For a while there, we had no inventory out there. I mean, we had some of the record lows of inventory a couple of years ago. And fast forward to today, there's not enough buyers out there. There's not enough people that are willing to go out and find something and lock it in because they're nervous about what's going on in the economy and what's going on across the world.
And I think you have it right there. Because I want to clarify, there are enough buyers, but they're skittish. They're staying on the sidelines. And years back, the buyers weren't even there. They were in the shadows. And then now the buyers are there. They're on the sideline. They're just not, hey, put me in the game because of whatever nervousness. And it could be, the student loans that kicked in here not all that long ago. And then they had to buy a new car. Might have bought a little more than they should have, but that payment's higher than they'd planned on. And then the house is a little higher than they planned on. And I don't know about you, but sweet corn is expensive. It's so good.
Screw you.
But I mean,
it's fine.
that has been my gauge. I mean, the last how many years, we don't have sweet corn all year long. And so 3 years ago, I don't feel like it was bad. 2 years ago, okay, it went up. And then last year it went up. And this year, you don't even get a baker's dozen anymore.
I haven't bought sweet corn on my own, I guess. My wife does it all. I've never noticed.
Yeah. No, I mean, when you buy a dozen, you always used to get 13.
Yeah.
Now you get 12 and the price is still high. It's still worth it. Just eat ramen one other night if you have to. But I mean, that type of gauge when everything is going up, and you and I've even had this with cars. Luckily we've got a great mechanic we trust and the cost is fair, maybe sometimes even better than fair. But when we look at how much it costs to maintain a car, it can add up really, really quick. And so the rates, just like you said, it can affect some. Those who budget really well, I don't think the rate is as much of an effect because they've got some cushion. And those of us who maybe don't budget as well and just kind of spend what's available in the checking account, then that little bit higher rate, it's really hard to figure out, how do I make this work? Because I'm not used to making it work. I'm just used to kind of going by the seat of my pants. I think that's where most people get in hot water and can't pull the trigger when they want to.
On the flip side, I think that we had, for the last couple of years, we had so many people talking about, Kyle, I want to wait until the values come down. I think values are just too hot right now. I think values are too high. I don't want to buy anything. And now we've seen, I had one realtor tell me she had a house under contract last year for $250,000 and buyer ended up losing their job and wasn't able to go through with the purchase. And so the seller said, I'm just going to take it off the market. I'll go back on the market in 2026. Went back on the market 2026 in the spring, and there's just no buyers at the 250 mark. She dropped it down, ended up selling it for $215. She lost $35,000 just by waiting a year because values have come down. And of course, there's some areas values have gone up and, it's going to be hit or miss. But overall, I would say in the Iowa market, we've probably seen more decrease in property value or purchase price on those homes than we wouldn't necessarily have seen in the last few years. And if you think, we go back to some of the statistics, Freddie Mac has come out and said over the last 82 years, only 7 times have we ever seen an national average see a property purchase price decrease, right? So the average price has only gone down 7 times. So if it truly is going down this year, it's one of 8 times in the last 80 years.
And it's a little bit of the right sizing, if you will. I don't really like that term, but I mean, when house prices went up like this, it's going to drop a little to level off to where I don't even consider it a drop. It's just that the top value that you could ask for your house, it just was so excessive. I mean, everybody was so gangbusters that it had to, have a little bit of a right sizing. But
a correction.
Yeah, a little correction. Yeah, I mean, it's like anything. You get punched in the shoulder, playing basketball. It hurt the next day, and then you're fine after that. Just a little right sizing. But I think the level of upkeep on the houses has been surprising to me. And so the interest rates have been such a big one to play with. And like you said, the sales prices as well. I think the unknown that this year has been such a surprise, those two are stressors. And then the regular maintenance hasn't been done on so many properties. And so now you have sellers who still think, here's my sales price. They haven't done the maintenance. And so we're seeing prices come down. The house wasn't worth it because they didn't trim the trees or bushes, or some of the people didn't clean. It's interesting to see, I want to get out and not do my maintenance, but the buyers want all the maintenance done on a brand new looking home.
It's not even the surface level stuff you're talking about, like cleaning and trimming trees. It's keeping up with the AC. The AC is 20 years old and it's on the fritz, and you just keep putting Band-Aids on it. It's the roof that needs to be replaced instead of just, swapping out a sheet of plywood and throwing some shingles on it. There's a lot of things that people are saying, well, a couple of years ago, I could get away with selling this thing and making top dollar. And you got buyers out there that don't want to spend money on something, especially if they feel like it's still on the high end of their budget. They want to come in and they want that house to be done and ready to go. In fact, I'm selling my house and I'm happy to have a buyer. Number one, I'm very gracious for that. But two, I really want to make sure that this house is ready to go for them. I hired a cleaner. I've never done that before. I hired a cleaner to have the house cleaned before we sold the house, just to make sure that that final walkthrough, I want everything to go really well. I want them to be happy about what they're buying so that, they're going to be near my old neighbors that I've been with for the last 10 years. And I want them to have a great experience with that house. But at the same time, I kind of knew I needed to spend some money to make sure that it was a good experience for them getting in. Of course, my water heater quit, the weekend I moved out and whatever, it just kind of happens. I could have waited a month on that, but, it's better that I paid for it instead of the buyers, right?
Better to give than receive, Kyle.
Exactly. It'll come around someday. Maybe somebody else will have to buy me.
It will.
I don't think that'll happen. Okay, yeah.
No, and it's all the pieces, and I think we're seeing a lot of little negatives kind of maybe pile up, and none of which are really a big deal. But when you start to get several, then it feels like a big deal. And yeah, it goes right along with what we've always said. We just want everybody to be comfortable and ready and have fair expectations. That can alleviate so much of this. So that way, when the right time's there, you can totally do it and not have, gray hair's okay.
The other thing I was curious about, have you seen where sellers are sitting longer on the market now to sell their house? I feel like there's a lot of houses out there that are subject to sale, or a lot of contracts that are subject to sale of their existing house. And the domino effects are starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And this house has to close before that house can close, before that house can close, et cetera.
Yeah.
Have you run into, what's the longest domino you've seen?
I haven't had a long one for a while. I know the end of last year, I think I had 4, but I definitely having, 2, back to back, just 1, 2, maybe a third. Have you had many that are more than 2?
Mine was, my longest one, I think, was just 3. But fortunately, my buyer was was buying from a builder. So the builder wasn't necessarily buying something, but they were getting ready to start on their next build. So they had money invested into something else already. They just didn't need to sell necessarily. They needed to, for sure. They
need to, but you don't have anybody moving out. There's no real timeline other than we'd like to be done. Yeah, and I think those are valid. We see them where the contingency is necessary. Because we do a lot of buy before you sell. You got to have your budget ready for that. But those are really convenient for everybody, and it makes for less dominoes. But if you've got buyers and sellers that are all back to back and they all need the money from the sale that has got to go to the new house, which that's a lot of people, I'd even say majority of people, then those can get tricky. If you have one of those have a bumble, it's just hard to deal with.
Yeah, so I'm looking at a graphic that Les Solgrove puts together with Simply Des Moines, and he always has some really interesting numbers that are out there for kind of what's going on in the market.
He does a nice job.
Yeah, there are 217 homes have been on the market for more than 6 months. That's crazy.
If there wasn't such a big number, I think we should drive by. Because I know at least 3 of those are in my neighborhood. And I'm pretty sure when they put the for sale sign in the yard, they had to kind of move the branch that was dead laying there and put it in, and then the branch came back and covered the sign, and they still did it that way. Like, no one's calling you. What?
I wonder why.
I wonder. Maintenance people. Maintenance.
Yeah, so I just, it's interesting. I'd recommend people go out there and check out his website, DesMoinesMarketValues.com. But it's really good information, especially as you're getting ready to maybe sell your house, or even as a buyer wanting to understand what's going on in the market. I know me personally, I was happy to get a buyer after 20 days on the market. And then it took me a couple more weeks to get somebody who was not subject to sale. And that's the other thing is people are buying a house, they're subject to sale. They got to get rid of their house. And if they can't, typically your contract says you got 24, 48 hours to be able to, convert without selling your house. And unfortunately, the people that wanted to buy my house, they couldn't do it without selling theirs. And so somebody else was able to swoop in and take it. But it's definitely an interesting standpoint when we've got so many subject to sale buyers.
Yeah. Well, and I have to give you kudos because you spent about a year prepping your house. You didn't have anything massive. I mean, doing some trim work and you had a lot of decent sized projects.
The trim work that sat there for months and I never touched it.
But still, you had your list and you knew, all right, I need to get these done because it's not a huge deal, but it's going to make it done and pretty and make the bathroom presentable versus functioning. And just, you know what? We've got little kids. There's paw prints on the wall. Okay, great. Let's paint. And you just got so many things done. And then even when, you had your storage unit, we all have so much treasure. Get that crap out of here.
Amen.
But get it to where people can see the flow of your house and you guys don't have pets. So you have, kids, add a pet or 2 in there. The cleaning you mentioned, there's so much that if you plan ahead, I give you kudos for how far ahead you did it and you gave yourself to where it was paced and you still were overwhelmed when it was time to list. So you're almost done.
That only less than a week to go here as of time of recording. By next week, hopefully this is over and I don't have to think about that house anymore. But I appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, it was overwhelming. Honestly, the most overwhelming thing is just calling all the different places for your trash and your electrical and your just getting all that stuff. I mean, that's moving in general. But I had ChatGPT, hey, give me a list of all the things I need to call, and this list was massive. I do need to still change my address for all my credit cards and all my bank accounts, and just the list goes on, it feels like. But then I start thinking about people that are buying and selling houses every couple of years. You just got to have like a mom and dad's like permanent house or something. Like just everything goes to mom and dad's address. I don't want to have to list anything there. So, well, anyways, let's get into 3 actionable takeaways from today, just to keep this moving. Number 1, just make sure you're getting pre-approved early. Know your budget before you start touring homes. We've talked about this many times, but with more inventory that's out there, it's good to make sure that you're pre-approved and you know exactly what you're looking for ahead of time. You're not necessarily going out looking at everything and then finding out that you can't actually qualify for those higher end homes or whatever at the top of your budget. The second thing is asking about any maybe rate buy downs or seller concessions. I know a lot of times sellers are not wanting to really drop that purchase price down, but they want a buyer. Well, if they want a buyer, maybe they'll do a temporary rate buy down where they will pay X amount of dollars to help you get into that house. It's essentially going to supplement your monthly payment, so you make a little bit less of a monthly payment. I've got somebody doing that right now, and then you can get into the house, they can get it sold, and everybody can move on. And finally, zoom in on the specific suburb or metro area that you're looking for, and you get slightly different stories on what's going on. You know, as we talked about, there are certain areas or certain price points that, you know, I guess my realtor told me, she goes, I listed a house for $250,000 the same day I listed your house for $350,000. The first one was in Ankeny, yours is in Altoona. Well, in Ankeny, a $250,000 house that's well maintained, she had 7 offers. She had a lot of offers because that was a lower price point in Ankeny, and it was a nice property. My house, $350,000 out in Altoona, it was a nice property, but it's higher end for Altoona. Yeah, of course there are the way higher end, but it's a little bit more expensive in Altoona. So knowing where you want to be looking, knowing what your budget's going to be. I also ask people, understand where you want to be before you start asking your realtor to go show you homes. I had one buyer that had come through my house and the agent was like, I really think they love your home. Well, my house is in Altoona and they worked north of Ames. It didn't necessarily make a ton of sense for them to buy a house in Altoona. And after they talked about it more, they decided Altoona was too far away. Well, my house had nothing to do with the conversation then. It was all simply, where do you want to be? So understand that, so that way you're not wasting your own time, you're not wasting your realtor's time, and you know you value your realtor's work that they're doing as they're out there helping you see homes and negotiating and things like that. So try to hone in on where you want to be or have a better idea.
Love all 3 of those.
Well, bottom line, Des Moines is easing toward a more balanced market. We do have a lot more homes out there right now, but there are a lot of buyers that could be purchasing. I know I've got a lot of pre-approvals out there. Rates are steady in the mid 6s or so, and buyers have room to negotiate. So keep at it out there. If you have any questions, give us a shout. Otherwise, we hope you enjoyed the episode today, found it valuable. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms and subscribe wherever fine podcasts can be downloaded. And have a great week. We'll see you next time.